All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's October 17th, 7 o'clock. We're starting our work session meeting. We all please stand and join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
David Lund,
Here.
Joe Boyd,
Here.
Kevin Kelly,
Here.
Aaron Kinder,
Here.
Bill Morris.
Here.
Lynn Morris.
Here.
All right, first item is the citizens hearing, and we didn't have anyone sign up, so citizens hearing portion is done. Move on to the presentation from GNS. Dustin, we do have your proposals ready to display if you would like us to.
Sure.
Do you want those on the screen or?
Sure,
Okay.
if you'd like, that would be great.
Do that?
Is this okay right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be careful in that chair.
Okay, thanks for the heads up. It's a little wobbly. Okay.
Just a little bit. Good idea.
Is that the
Fuck you
chair?
out. Yeah, it's my chair. The remote.
Good chair.
The trick chair, yeah.
Okay, just a little background. We don't have any good IT support for any of our computers or networks. It's been hodgepodge. We've had a lot of different people involved with it, doing their own thing, and we don't have good documentation on what we got. We've talked before, we've had other presentations from different IT services, and I learned about Dustin's GNS IT service at a mayor's meeting, so we brought him over. Mark and Sarah and I met with him and gave him our needs, and then Dustin turned around and gave us some proposals here, and we're gonna look at what our proposals are tonight, so. Got it up? Okay.
Great. So thanks, Dave. And first and foremost, thank you for the invitation to be here this evening. Just a little background, Genesis Network Solutions, local based company out of El Paso, owned by Brandon Harbison here, who happens to be also one of the solutions architects that helps identify IT solutions for our customers. There's an arm of Genesis Network Solutions that focuses primarily on municipalities. So both of us born and raised in a small town. This is year 25 for me at State Farm as a technology director. I spent 22 years in law enforcement, retired at Stanford as the chief of police, doing that alongside my State Farm career. So been around technology and local government most of my life. And one of the biggest gaps that I acknowledged throughout that journey was there's really nobody out there helping local, small, rural municipalities make sure their data is protected and making sure their IT needs are met. So Brandon and I put our heads together, and what we did was attend a Mayor's Association meeting to advertise the services that we offer. Our first step was to meet with Dave and several other representatives, including the chief, to better understand what the needs are of Hudson. We didn't want to assume, we didn't want to be that typical IT company that came in and tried to sell you a bunch of stuff that you didn't need. We wanted to listen first. And what we heard is, as Dave was saying, there's not been a structured IT process here for the village of Hudson. In many cases, you're not exactly sure whether your data is properly backed up, whether your network, your encryption is secure, your residence data is secure, and really no continuity plan that if technology was to fail, how could you continue to be operational providing services to your community? So we completed a needs analysis, and then from that, we put together a solutions plan. And that solutions plan is what we're going to go through tonight. But before we get into it, any questions about what GNS is or what we're about I know I kind of gave you the Reader's Digest version, but any high level questions about what we're about? Make sense? Okay. All right. So if you could, we'll scroll through. There's two proposals. One is basically what we call endpoint management. And this is to make sure that all of the computers, all of your data, all of your network connections are secure, protected with the latest antivirus, malware protection, and encryption to make sure your data is secure. The other thing that we provide is also making sure that your data is backed up regularly. So in the event of an electrical storm or some kind of outage, if you lose all of the data on any village-owned computer, we will quickly recover that data using a cloud-based technology that makes it really easy for us to manage that remotely. The other service that we identified was through the police department. They have mobile data computers, or MDCs. They used to be called MDTs back in the day, as Chief would tell you. They've evolved over time. But we wanted to make sure that the police department was also in compliance with the Bureau's standards on criminal justice information systems, or you may have seen that referred to as CJIS. Super important to be in compliance with that. Obviously, the police department has to handle sensitive data. They take sometimes pictures of evidence, and we want to make sure that information is secured according to those standards. So we also make sure that we're in full compliance with CJIS. So if he was to be audited by the Illinois State Police, he would be in full compliance of that audit. Okay. And then finally, the last part there you'll see under network management is providing you hardware and the necessary switches, devices to secure your network and make sure your network is optimally working for all village staff. So high level, we just call that endpoint management. And you'll see in the estimate here that we basically bill monthly. And if you want to go ahead and scroll all the way down. Yeah. So the things that you'll see here on the proposal are that first thing is endpoint management, basically making sure that not only are all of your computers, all of your network devices, your MDCs, and your staff are fully protected and they get 24/7/365 support. So that means if anybody in the village, village employee, police officer, what have you, needs technical assistance, they can contact our support center, they can click to chat, they can send a text, whatever mode of operation they choose to use, we're going to give them the support. Really important, obviously, for the police department to have that off-hour coverage. We talked a little bit about the network, making sure that we give you the appropriate network devices and we manage that network to ensure that you're protected, encrypted. And then we also make sure that we're doing analysis all the time of what type of technology needs do you have? Do you need new computers? How often should we update technology so that it doesn't cause us problems? So this first proposal is protecting everything every month, providing technical support. And that number is a monthly number that ensures that support and protection, encryption is taken care of for all of your computers and all your staff. I'll pause there. There's a second part to this that is a non-monthly, kind of a one-time charge, but this is the monthly endpoint management proposal. Any questions or anything that you'd like to dig deeper on in regards to that? Or Dave, did I miss anything?
No, you haven't missed anything. I had a question.
Sure.
When I have a computer that doesn't boot.
Yep.
Okay, we call your help desk.
Yep.
Are you going to be able to help us to determine if it's software, hardware?
Yeah, so the help desk, when they receive that call, they're going to do everything they can to try to get you up and running over the phone.
Mhm.
If they're not able to get you up and running over the phone, they'll dispatch a technician to come on site and address that need.
Okay,
So there's endpoint software that would be installed on all your machines, that if you need remote assistance and you authorize the technician to come into the machine, they can do things remotely. But that's only if you authorize that connection. We don't have access to it unless it's authorized by the end user.
if it's not booting, it's probably not gonna be
If it's not booting,
accessible anyway.
it's
so-
probably a hardware issue and we'll have to come on site to help.
Okay, so if you come on site, if it was a software problem, that would be covered under our contract.
Correct.
If it's a hardware problem, then we get billed at the
Yeah. so
whatever the billing
70
rate is for hardware.
Yeah, so what if, let's say that there's a hardware issue and we have to replace the hardware, we're gonna just bill you at a basically time and material rate at that point. But we're gonna do analysis and make sure that's what you need before we take you down that path.
Okay.
Actually, one of the first steps that we like to do is kind of an IT inventory analysis, like what do you have? How old is it? What problems does it have? Are there immediate needs that we need to potentially propose? All of that, all of the hardware would be a separate expense, but we would provide a proposal. We have a relationship with Dell. Dell has worked very well for us in providing laptops, desktops, even MDCs. I know traditionally we've used, Panasonic, but Dell actually has a great Toughbook option that can be attractive for the police department. So we would provide that separately and make sure you were comfortable before we took any action on that.
The question I have is
Yes.
on backups. What's the frequency on the backups?
Yeah, so Brandon, you want to talk a little bit about Carbonite?
Sure. So we use two different products. We use Carbonite for any of the machines that we for sure want to, like the clerk's machine, chief's machine, anything that we know that we need to capture kind of different folders. The endpoint manager actually does a backup on all of the machines, but we additionally install Carbonite on the other machines. That gives them the ability to actually see what's being backed up and see that it is being backed up. So it's just kind of a nice added feature for them that they can go in and actually see how that works. It runs that backup every day and it'll keep 30 increments of that backup. So it's generally a 30-day period, but if this is a couple days in there, it may actually be longer. We can make it longer if we need to, but generally speaking, if you didn't miss it in 30 days, you're probably not gonna miss it.
And it's all cloud-based, so nothing local. So let's say a bad storm comes through, lightning fries every device in the building. The backup is actually a cloud-based solution through Carbonite. So let's say it fried all the hard drives, fried the computers, we had to replace those things. We'll then be able to restore all your data from the cloud with no risk of that being compromised on site.
From the day or
Whatever day you choose. Let's say the clerk says, hey, I actually want to go back 3 days ago. That's the day that I definitely need to recover, right? Okay, great. We'll grab that snapshot and fully recover the data from that day.
Okay.
Yeah, and Carbonite, by the way, industry proven cloud-based backup system used by a majority of your Fortune 500s, especially in the small business sector. So very proven technology, very sound technology. Is expensive, but we think it's the best solution so that we don't have to worry about that backup being compromised.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
good
other
question.
question I have is, we just went, Chief might have told you about, we just went with Axon for
Sure.
the body camera, dash
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
So on that,
Yeah.
so now, I know he was trying to tell me, I went through the demonstration that,
Yeah,
and they kind of show how all the evidence is uploaded and go through the Axon, so that,
Yeah.
kind of that. So,
Yeah.
so with this, I mean, I think you mentioned about the encryption. So
Yes.
what gap is there between that your software, your service is providing to secure that
yeah.
before it's uploaded? What do
Great
you?
question, really
Okay.
meaningful question. So the Axon body cameras, I'm assuming uses evidence.com.
Correct.
And evidence.com is actually its own cloud-based service just for body worn cameras and police dash cameras, right? And the reason why we don't want to mix that with non-police data is because of that CJIS standard, right? So one of the audits that the Illinois State Police will conduct is a technical security audit. And one of those questions says, Chief, do you separate your criminal justice data from other municipality data? Is that on a completely separate encrypted network? And are the cloud services you're using separate from that of your non-police data? We would be able to answer yes to that question and show them that evidence.com is collecting body worn cameras. Carbonite is collecting non-police, non-sworn sensitive data.
Okay.
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 So we would not have Carbonite grab body worn camera or dash camera videos. In fact, we would be very specific on what folders we installed Carbonite on to where we don't violate that standard.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
super important. Okay, Phase two, yes.
Just, and
Please.
I know you brought this up,
Yeah.
in our meeting, we talked just a little bit about it. The proactive nature of malware,
Yeah.
looking for protection from malware, because I know that you're out there, you're constantly scanning, constantly looking, and then picking up when perhaps other companies or the municipalities have been penetrated by malware.
Yeah.
And then you constantly are updating you constantly update our system with patches
Yes.
to protect us from those
That's
recent
right.
threats.
Yeah, that happens automatically with our endpoint management software. So malware protection, we use a company called Malwarebytes. It's popular in the personal consumer section. You probably can download it for free. This is just the premium version. Provides even more protection. It's constantly being updated. Same with the antivirus, which is WebRoot. WebRoot is a solid antivirus. You're probably familiar with companies like AVG or McAfee, the things that like to do a lot of spam pop-ups on your computer. They want you to buy things every 30 days. WebRoot is a more enterprise solution that will give up-to-date virus definition. So yes, great point. Constantly updating that and making sure you're in compliance with the latest antivirus and malware protection. Great question. Great comment. The second proposal here, these are the reason why we split this up, because this is non-monthly. We really identified three things on your needs analysis. One, today, the chief does a great job of managing the standards. However, one of the things that is really interesting is that the state police will audit every police department from time to time on the CJIS standards. It is near to impossible for a small town department to be 100% compliance. And it's just because you don't have the IT solutions to be able to do that. GNS set out on a journey to make sure every small rural police department was CJIS compliant. And what that is doing, you'll want to let your insurance carrier know. Is that IML or PMG or?
We have ICMRT.
ICRMT, yeah. So our goal here is to get you into 100% CJIS compliance so you can notify them. That should significantly lower your liability risk, right? Because while CJIS, all the audit is doing is saying, are you in compliance with this standard? And today, chief's not able to say yes to all those questions because you don't have a full-time IT department. We want to be that full-time IT department that helps get you in compliance. So one of the things that we do is a pre-audit analysis. We will act like we're doing a full CJIS audit. We will identify all the gaps that you have in the CJIS space. And then we will provide recommendations on how to address those gaps. Now that pre-audit analysis will actually bring in somebody who understands and is certified in CJIS to do that pre-audit analysis. And then if we do anything to implement those findings, that's just an hourly rate, which is item number 2, right? So $75 an hour will get you in compliance with whatever those findings are. And hopefully they're not significant, but there is a large amount of time spent on that pre-analysis. And then the third one is just the creation of an IT asset inventory database. We talked a little bit about that. So that's us going around barcoding, putting stickers on every one of your assets, registering it with the barcode, giving you that data, and then tracking the life cycle of every piece of IT equipment that you have. So that way we know when it needs to be updated or
And
retired.
that's both police and non-police.
That is both. And that's just a $250 charge to do that. It'll take us several hours to do that, inventory it, barcode it. So that's what this proposal is. It's separate because it's a non-monthly rate. So that $1,200 is one time only. It does not include the implementation of the CJIS recommendations. But since we don't know what that looks like yet, we just acknowledge that it's $75 an hour to do that. Any questions on that particular proposal?
What will be some examples of that if you find, and like
Yeah.
in the previous, maybe ones you've done
Yeah.
before, has there been examples you
Sure.
can provide?
One of the most popular ones is, believe it or not, in order to be in compliance with CJIS, the police department has to have a network topology diagram of every device, every network connection, and how it's encrypted and secured. I'm guessing that doesn't exist today, right? So we would help build that and make sure that we're creating that topology. So when the chief gets that audit from the Illinois State Police, he can say, yes, and here it is. So when we do the findings and we actually work, we will give basically every deliverable that is needed in order to pass that audit with 100%. Another example, they want to know exactly what user logged on to what computer at what time and what they did, right? On criminal justice sensitive data points. So today, probably officers don't have their own individual logins, or if they do log into the computer, it's a more generic police login. We would assign user IDs to every officer that when they log into the computer, there's a pop-up that says unauthorized access is illegal and will be prosecuted. That's a standard. Most departments don't know how to put that pop-up. We'll make sure that pop-up's there so we can answer yes to that question. Those are just two real quick examples. Other questions or maybe concerns that you had as I went through those descriptions?
I have a question on the monthly.
Sure.
If we find, for instance, that we have 12 computers instead of 10.
Yeah.
How much additional
Yeah.
is that charge?
We'll work with you, Dave. So I think we put that recommendation together based on the information that we collected in the needs analysis. But let's say, oops, we were off by 1, or we actually have 9, not 10. We'll adjust the price.
Okay.
We don't show you a price per computer because what we do is we try to bundle it with all the software and the endpoint. So we just try to make that manageable for you. But if that number goes up or goes down, we'll just give you a new number. Yeah, no problem at all. We try to keep that manageable. And I just want to address something that on the monthly, you know, I guess if I was sitting in your seat, I might be like, man, that's a lot of money a month. But if I think about it this way, you're getting 24/7 technical support. All of your endpoints are protected. You're lowering your risk and your liability to data compromising, malware, virus, lack of data protection. All that software and all that expertise to manage that software is very expensive in the industry, right? We've tried to remove the overhead of that and make it easy. But obviously the world's a little expensive right now, and just the cost of software and infrastructure to manage it is expensive. So we try to remove the red tape. We try to make sure that it's reasonable and understand that we still both live in small towns. We grew up in small towns. We know there's not a lot of money in small town America. So we did what we could to be very competitive.
We've got email with Rackspace right now. Would you say we should continue that?
Yeah, so Rackspace is doing all your email hosting. Are they doing also your website domain hosting as well, or is that someone else?
That's
Yeah, so we would evaluate whether or not Rackspace was a good option, and that would be part of that analysis that we do when we come in. I'd want to understand what you're getting for your money. Can we offer cloud-based solutions that are cheaper, that are more efficient? Rackspace is a pretty big supplier, and they can keep costs low, but we also want to make sure that they're meeting your needs, right? So do all of you today have village issued email addresses?
Yeah.
And do those, let's say your term expires, you choose not to be on the board anymore. Does that email goes away with your position on the board? Is that how that works?
Yeah, but it's archived.
It's archived.
So it's still, anything in that email is still accessible, just
Correct.
that email is no longer live.
Got it. So if you get a FOIA request for an email
We
that
can
happened
still
2
go
years
back,
ago, you can go
absolutely.
back and get it.
Mhm.
That would be things that I would be sensitive of, and making sure that whatever solution we recommended, there's data archival.
So
So
that's
you're in
huge.
compliance with FOIA,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. So if you could give me data on what you're paying per month and
Absolutely.
what the limitations are, I can tell you whether or not that's a good deal.
Okay, we're also paying about $550 a month for landlines.
Yeah.
Actually, 700. I've been on the phone with Frontier for the last
Yeah,
2
okay.
weeks trying to fix it.
How much are VoIP lines?
Yeah, so we do offer digital telephony. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I obviously can't price all that off the top of my head, but, how many phones do you think?
7, I think. 7 lines, I think.
And you willing to bet we could probably beat that with hardware and desk phones?
Well, I don't think you could beat it. I don't think it's like half.
So a lot of the cost in the phone piece for us is on that first proposal, is the network. Since that part would already technically be here, the only part that we would have to add is basically we use virtual phone lines. They're called SIP trunks. So those would go basically from the phone encrypted all the way back to the data center. So we would have the cost for the virtual phone line, then the actual phone itself, and the licensing through Cisco. We use Cisco phones. So, very similar to probably what State Farm's still using. So we use the same phones there. Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know what the pricing would look like.
Okay.
I think you'd be happy with the service than Frontier. We,
If it's something you'd like us to price out and bid, we would just need to know what type of
Yeah, I mean, I
services.
think
you'd
it'd
like.
be a lot cheaper, so I would certainly say we should change.
Okay, we can help with that. The other thing we didn't put on here is your network infrastructure, like all your wiring. I don't know how old or what type of wiring that you have throughout the buildings, because you have two buildings, right, connected here. So we could also do an analysis on that, and if that needed to be upgraded, we could recommend just a network infrastructure cabling update. But we would consider that a separate thing. We would talk through that with you, make sure that's necessary. Or we might get up there and say, you know what, this isn't needed right now. I wouldn't spend the money on this right now. So we're happy to do that as well.
What about web-based phone lines?
Sorry, say it again.
Web-based phone lines?
Web-based phone lines. So you mean, so I think what we were talking about earlier was voice over IP, but you're saying something different from voice over IP?
So like
Web-based?
I work for the city of Bloomington. We've
Sure.
got Cisco there, but we are actually slowly switching over to not actually having desk phones anymore. Everything comes
Oh,
over.
like cell
RPCs.
phones. I
Yes.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think Cisco has an option.
yeah, and honestly, the pricing between that and the Cisco desk phones is pretty comparable.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's not, we just did a comparison for a nonprofit and normal, and it was like $1 or $2 more per month for a desk phone, and they opted to just stick with.
Gotcha.
The difference would be you don't have to manage the hardware component on your desks, which is probably why the city's interested in that, right? They want to kind of
Yeah.
remove some technical debt.
Yeah.
So if that's an option, I would think clerk's office would need actual physical phones in some cases, but we could entertain a hybrid solution. Maybe some of the offices here need a physical phone, some just need a soft phone.
And we are looking at a potential integration with Microsoft Teams. You'd be able to answer the phone, you could effectively use your desk phone number on Microsoft Teams. So if the clerk needed to go work at home because she had a sick kid, she could effectively answer that phone at home on her laptop. If laptop, I don't know if you do.
Yeah. Or it could be forwarded, of course, to whatever cell device that you
Yeah,
have,
and
right? Lots of
you
options
could
there.
do that on the desk phone. There's literally a forward button, and you
Yeah.
just hit that, dial your cell phone number, and nobody even knows you're not
And
there.
they can call you at all hours of the day.
Sarah's on call tonight, right?
Don't worry, I can do a schedule for it.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that.
If you do work on a VoIP proposal, I do want at least one landline left in this building or the other building.
Sure.
Because for every disaster thing I've gone to, they say, make sure you got at least one landline.
Yeah. We would make sure we do some business continuity best practices and make sure that there's always if a major cyber attack was to occur in the village of Hudson, I hope not, but we would always have that backup plan to have traditional legacy lines.
You guys have a fax machine?
Yeah.
Where's your phone line?
Okay.
Use
Yeah,
that.
fax can't be VoIP, can it?
It
Or
can
can
be,
it?
but
It's
it's not
ugly.
worth it.
Just,
Okay.
you'd be receiving the fax communication through software, like through a scanned image versus a physical. And sometimes for contract stuff, that's not always, sometimes attorneys do not prefer that. They want it to actually be printed through the fax machine.
Yeah.
Any questions, thoughts? Anything about this makes anybody uncomfortable?
Just $13.75 a month, we get, I mean, that's,
that's the.
we didn't budget for it, so we gotta figure out if we
Sure.
do go with it, how we're gonna pay for it.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, respect that, and
you understand. that, so.
absolutely, and we're certainly willing to be flexible and work with you in any way that we can. We want you to be successful.
And just to clarify, we cannot make a decision on this tonight.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
we'll probably bring it up at our November meeting.
sure.
Sarah, will you talk to Pat, legal, and see what we can do for our budget to, if we decide to go with this, how we would modify our budget to pay for it? Get some ideas there.
So we find out too from insurance, like if they can guesstimate how much it might save too, because that might be
Yeah.
where you can get some of the.
Sure. Yep, and if they would like any information from us on what we're doing, to have the police department be CJIS compliant, we're happy to provide that in advance. And if the attorney needs a copy of the master services agreement from us, just to go through the legal language, happy to send that over. Yeah. Nothing in there will surprise or confuse anybody, but you know, this day and age, there's always a contract that has to be signed, so.
And so everybody understands too, this is not a contract that we have to sign for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or any time period.
Yep.
It's just month to
Monthly,
month.
it's like it's not like XM radio, right? Right, you know, you don't have to call us every year and bid down the rate. Well, month to month, and if you feel like you're not getting the value that you deserve, you'll let me know first, and I'll nip that in the bud real quick. But if you just say, hey, we're gonna go a different route, no problems. We just ask for a 30-day notice. Okay. Any other questions? Great. Well, appreciate the invitation.
I think we may have had a question.
What kind of performance does your antivirus give you?
I'm sorry,
What kind of performance do you get from your
what
antivirus?
type of performance? Yeah.
What kind of performance hit?
Oh, performance hit?
Yeah.
Oh,
much
like
of the
how
CPU
much
is it
does the
gonna-
CPU? Yeah. So one of the reasons why we like WebRoot so much is it's not so taxing on the CPU and the memory utilization, right? You download some of these McAfee, and nothing against these mainstream. Yeah, and they just chew up a lot, especially when they're doing full scans, right? We like WebRoot because one, it's managed well under our endpoint management, and two, it's low weights, lightweight, but very effective. So don't have the exact percentage off the top of my head, but we can provide that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, WebRoot, if you do a little research, you just Google WebRoot, you'll learn all about them. They're a very respectable company. They do a lot for municipalities, enterprises. Question.
Anybody have any last questions for either of them? Not Dustin, I want to thank you for you guys' effort in getting everything together. And
Absolutely.
Brandon, thanks for coming tonight. I'm disappointed there's no tacos out there, but
I've never made tacos in the food trailer. but
no, okay.
We can start.
That makes you happy.
All right, you guys have a good rest of
All
your
right,
meeting.
thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. Everybody think about that. We'll put it on the agenda for November meeting. And we can discuss it and see what we want to do. And Sarah, if you have a chance to get information on how we can modify our budget to pay for it, that would also be helpful. So, okay, the next item on the agenda is the sewer study, our next steps discussion. And this is where we're just gonna try and outline all of our options as far as what we could do next. So maybe we can get a blank sheet up for a Word document. Just keep it so we can all see it.
I can't stream and
Oh,
do
okay,
that.
never
Sorry
mind.
about that.
Okay. So I'll just write them down too.
Oh, yeah. Joe can do it.
think I have these two now. Yeah, it was good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we probably have 4 or 5, 6 different options as far as what we want to do next. There's something just changed. When you move the cable,
Oh. This is really.
maybe that's all it said.
Screen that I'm on. Keep
Is that a pink
talking.
Just
jellyfish?
running in the background.
Yeah, that's the jelly.
Can we have those computer guys come back?
Oh, they're not under contract yet, so. You can't get it going, Joe. I've had mine hooked up before.
I just gotta move this to the
I
screen.
think we got an extra desktop.
Dave, did we hear from Greg on a estimate cost for our design plan?
I have not heard anything from Greg on an estimate for the detail work
Yeah.
or any explanation on the billing.
Oh.
And so I'm waiting to hear.
Okay.
So,
Has Pat reached out to discuss anything on the overbilling?
no. I have not reached out to him yet either. I
Okay.
wanted to get the explanation from Greg on how we got where we're at before I
Yeah.
went back to Pat and see if we have any legal recourse.
I honestly think we need to talk to Pat now,
We could.
because it is a legal contract that they have overbilled us for.
Yep.
I mean, unfortunately, when they put that scope and fee together, they're supposed to stay by that scope and fee, and if they're not, they're supposed to reach out to us and let us know if some portion of the study has ran over. We're supposed to discuss that before they just keep billing us hours, because actually, at this point, it's for them to eat. We go by our contract amount, and that's it.
But we only own a little bit more. Like we paid up and, do we still
We
have,
still
are
owe
we
them.
current or?
No,
We've overpaid them.
We've
No, I
overpaid
know,
them.
that's what I'm saying, but
The
like,
last check I still held on to because Dave
Right.
told me not to give it to him. It was
Right.
like 15,000, I think, or
Right.
something like that. It's
Yeah.
still sitting. It's
But the
on the
initial
insurance.
was 76, correct?
yeah,
And then we added,
I think we added 20.
Looking at the
Well, we
bill, it
didn't
looks like
have, we
around
didn't change
13
the
or so, I
contract,
think.
but we
Yeah.
might have budgeted.
And it's separate in
20
there,
more.
in the
Yeah,
bills
so-
that I sent. It's around 13
Mhm.
maybe for mapping, I think.
so
Ballpark, don't quote me
roughly
there.
around 90,000, and to date, we've paid 120.
In front of me, probably, I think it was like 120. I don't have it in front of
120,
me.
and then you
but I
gotta
can
take
get that.
the 13,000 off for the mapping, which wasn't included.
Mhm.
So roughly
And the-
110.
Yeah.
So
I'd have to
I
look
will
for
go
sure.
ahead and initiate a conversation with Pat then,
I
see
can
what
send
his,
that out tomorrow.
his thought is.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a binding contract, and they've overbilled us. I'm surprised Pat didn't have any, or not Pat, Greg didn't have any comment the other night. I'm surprised he hasn't sent anything in yet.
So am I.
I mean, he should have a really good reason why, because I mean, as you can go through the bills, they track all their hours, pretty specific on what they're working on. And like I said, it is a binding contract that he's stuck by. And to know that we've paid 30,000 over so far that we have not voted on.
Right.
And I guess my other question to
Well,
that is,
okay, when you say, we do approve the payments at our regular monthly meeting. I mean, so we have approved all the payments so far, except for the last one, which.
and I'm not saying approving the payments, I'm saying approving the contract.
Right.
We
We did
approved
not
the
make-
contract
Right,
Yeah,
and we never made an amendment to that contract.
correct,
Um,
right. Joe, can you get a Word document going? If not,
I didn't realize it was working. Okay.
if not,
Yes,
hand me
okay.
the cable and I'll see if I can get one going here.
Oh, so we could do it too.
Oh, you got it, too. Okay. Okay, so this is options for continuing, I'm sorry, not continuing, options for where to go with the sewer study.
obviously option number one is go no further. That's obvious. So we'll just get that one out of the way.
Stop.
Two. I think is
Stop and get our money back.
stop and get our.
We're gonna try and get our money back whether we stop or not, the difference.
Um,
You know, not the whole amount, the overbill.
Over,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think two and just like the process steps, and I'm not saying that this is one, but is pursue with the design plan with the EPA grant for design and construction. That's option 2.
So do the detailed design.
Right, with the grant, with applying for the EPA, the 5 million.
Which would be
EPA grant.
after the detailed design is done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
So we would have to put the bill for that up front, and then it would be eligible to be reimbursed out of the state Illinois EPA
Right.
grant that we got.
But there's a
assuming we
chance-
got one.
we don't move forward. And we have to pay that grant back, or we don't get the full funding and we're out all that costs.
Right. And we do not know what the detailed cost would be
Right.
for the detailed plans.
Right,
He did show me a complete detailed plan. The book we got now is what, 70, 80 pages
it's like 180
of typing
pages.
size paper. The detailed plan was about twice that thick of legal size paper. I mean, it had all the diagrams in it, so it's very detailed. It's gonna be very expensive, so I
Right.
hate to guess what it would cost.
I know,
So we'll see if we can get a ballpark guess, not any contract price for it, but, you know, are we looking at 500,000? Are we looking at 2 million?
They usually
which any
say,
of the above, is not an option for us to pay for it at our current state. Like, we have no budget or even funding. We can't even creatively move things around for it.
the rule of thumb is usually 8 to 10% of
The
your
whole
of your
project.
construction cost.
Yeah,
Now, once projects get this large, that rule goes out the window.
okay.
And that's why I said I would be shocked if this is just personal, I would be shocked if it's anything less than $1 million for design.
Yeah, 'cause that would only be 5% or roughly 4 or 5%, somewhere in that figure, out of a $24 million project, so.
To Lynn's comments, I mean, you have to assume you're paying it out of your budget, because if you
Right.
don't move forward, you have to pay.
Yeah,
So.
Right.
Your
Right.
statements that we can't pay it out of the budget, mean we can't do
Absolutely,
it.
right, right. Agree. I think an option 3 is if we want to continue with BCA and the design plan. Maybe, is there any way to see if there is grants?
Yeah.
More grants out there for that, like, can we
Pursue
look for that?
grants without doing the detailed design work.
Pursue, yeah, but pursue grants, yes, without doing the detail, but for, like, put it on hold until we find if there's grants or not for that. And is that something we can do ourselves, or are there, services out there that we could find that help find?
There are consultants that will help us do that.
consultants? Yeah.
There is the One Voice trip,
Mhm.
which I forwarded the email from Benward.
Mhm.
They're looking for $300 million help from EPA to fund some of their upgrades. It would sure be nice if we could tack 20 million onto that, or 18
Right.
million or whatever, and submit it as a bundled package.
Yeah.
But that's, that's where, I don't know how that would turn out. No
Right,
idea,
right,
but it's an option we can
Mhm.
pursue.
We can always ask our politicians, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
we can ask state for help. The federal politicians are hit in the One Voice trip. And we can also ask them outside of the One Voice trip too. I just think the One Voice carries a lot of weight and has had very good success in getting projects approved. So,
Do we think there'd be any hope of, I mean, like, Benward seems to get buckets of money. I mean, is there any hope that we'd like get some money that, you know, money that they had maybe gotten on some grant and they could spend, because our line's $5 million to go to Benward, right? It's like if they could buy half of that instead of us having to buy it all or something like that would be. money too. They never expressed any interest in owning the line from Hudson to Benward, I guess.
Greg had a lot of discussions with them on that, and I was not involved with that, so I don't know if there's a chance there's a chance that they might take that over. It probably depends on whether or not Lake Bloomington or anybody else ever wanted to come in on that line.
Yeah. I don't want them to take it over, I want them to install it.
I know.
It's a $5 million item, I mean, if they,
That last mile.
yeah, I mean, if they consider doing that, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna put it on here, if I don't have it.
And along with D, you also want to hit the state. Okay, you got both there, I see, federal and state senators and representatives for money.
We obviously have an option to not continue with BCA and find a new engineer.
Is that called starting over, or what's that called?
Well, no, because they would
It's
pick
a
up from.
continuation. They just
Yeah.
pick up where the study is left off. And
We'll have to
any,
do it for next phase, I think.
and any engineer can pick that up on the next phase and keep moving with it.
But go, so move on to the design phase or not?
It would.
See
you would-
what the design phase would.
Yeah.
If they agree with our current, but I mean, obviously that costs money.
So have a firm evaluate our current plan and see if, have another firm evaluate our current plan to see if there's a way to reduce the cost or something.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that's what we're saying.
no,
okay.
I feel like if we want to move forward with the project with any of these other steps to finding the design funds, do we go with BCA
Okay,
or do we want a new?
I'm gonna put that under here as the move forward stage.
Yeah, there you go.
They could move to a. I mean, do we ask either BCA or a new firm to look at the plan again and see if there's a way to reduce the cost? Get rid of some lift stations, I don't know. Most of the cost is laying the pipe, so you're never gonna have.
Well,
those
with
pipe
BCA,
upgrades.
they do that, but that's in the design stage, like they like pinpoint.
Yeah,
More
I
of a
guess you
specific
could
design,
put
so-
a note in there that the final design stage would include a review of where the pump stations are, how many there are, and whether or not it would be wise to run pipes along the ditch.
I mean, the problem is, he's given us a plan to look at,
Yeah,
and it's $23 million plan, and we're saying, oh, if we go ahead and commit, maybe it'll get cheaper. Well,
But
I mean,
he's
I'd like the
saying
plan
it's
we
not
have,
going
to-
to get significantly cheaper. It could
Okay.
get cheaper,
Okay,
but I think the goal is within like $5 million, which is a lot, right? If I remember correctly,
to go what? What'd you say?
like, so the cost analysis was like worst case scenario cost wise. Like this,
Oh, the plan that he gave
this
us.
is our best guess, highest, like safest guesstimate based on the initial design plan with all the information given, without doing all the hours and work and actually figuring out the specifics. So this is their best estimate within, I think, a few $1 million. Like nothing's going to change so significantly to drop that cost.
pump stations were.
Like 200,
250,000
250,000, yeah.
So if you eliminate 3 of them, yeah, it's $500,000, that's, or 600,000, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, but it's not. Project,
I mean, there's stuff in the plan also saying like, if you end up with a high water table, it's gonna cost a lot more, right? So I mean. you
Yeah,
can't- you
there
can't
are
just say
those
the plan's gonna
variables.
Decrease in price.
Right, and they won't, nobody will know that until that design phase, that costs a boatload.
I guess the other question too is if we're going to plan on putting this out to a non-binding vote.
I feel like it's too soon to say.
But we can't spend $1 million to then put it out and have it fail.
That is an option.
Our
moving
goal is to
forward that
not
needs to
spend
be
$1
up there.
million
For design,
for design. We can't, well,
what I mean is,
if we got
if we get a
some sort of
grant,
funding.
if we get a
for it.
grant, that grant's gonna come along with the stipulation that you go into construction. If you don't go into construction, we pay.
Maybe,
we
what
pay
if
the
we can
million.
find one that is just for design? I don't, you know more than I do about this.
I asked a couple engineers, they've never heard of finding one like that. There
Okay.
may be some out there, but usually if they're going to give you $1 million, they want to know that the project's moving forward, because most of those are gonna be state or federal type grants that you're getting. They don't want to give you $1 million just to, they want to give it to a community that's actually gonna use it to move forward.
So if we don't find a
Now, I'm not
grant,
saying
what
that
if it
there's not.
gets, what
Um,
if we can find an Uncle Congressman?
Maybe, like I said, I'm not saying that it's never,
Right,
they just said it would be probably fairly difficult to try to find something like that,
yeah,
especially for $1 million.
Yeah.
And I'm throwing the million out only just because I'm looking at the cost of the project and looking at some of the projects I do with those higher costs
mhm,
and averaging them in. I mean, I've got a one that's multi-million that I'm working on, and my design fee is 5 million.
Mhm.
I'm trying to kind of average it out that's probably roughly
That's
what it's
probably
gonna,
I think that's a safe
It may
number
be
for us
more.
to consider, right?
Yeah.
Did everybody read this that Dave sent out?
Which one is this?
This is the thing about the people that did get it this
Oh,
year.
yeah, yeah.
I thought some of it was interesting. I mean, some of these, 5 million here, 4 million, so they got rid of 315 septic tanks, they got 4 million. I mean, we have a bigger project than most of these, it sounded like. But they got 5 million for 103 residences, we got almost 800, right? So these people that got these awards, the award was a bigger percentage of their total project, I mean,
Mhm.
103 residences, I don't know how much that costs, we got 800, it's 23. So divide 23 by 8, I don't know. But I mean, they got 5 million, it might have paid for most of theirs, right?
Mhm.
So this one was only 143 customers, they got 5
The
million.
last one, 16.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, 16 homes, they got 1 million.
Yeah.
It's like, we need money for 800 homes.
yeah, I don't know that. Because say we have a good chance of getting that grant, we still have the issue of we get the design plan and we are gonna move forward, but we don't get any other grants. There's no other funding, so now we're financing the rest that's in the plan.
That's the 163 a month per household,
It
right?
was just, yeah, which is not feasible. So that's the hard part.
I just found this interesting, that these are all small projects and they're getting 5 million. We have a large project, we get 5 million, so there's a lot more costs.
The way the IEPA set up the program, though, the maximum grant that they've gone by in the past has been 5 million.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So in cumulative, the maximum is 20 million divided up by how many ever recipients.
Yeah.
And they anticipate more applicants.
And what did Greg say, it was like, what, 4 or 5 of them got the award out of 20 applicants?
yeah, that's these 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Well, and most of the others were not complete. That's why a lot of the others didn't get anything.
Right.
So they may turn around and complete it and resubmit it, or they may drop it, it's.
So I feel like I don't want to move forward counting on this.
What year are we in of this? Do we know? Actually, this must be the 3rd year because it says 21 and 22 were announced recently. These are the 23. So we must be in the 3rd year of this 5-year, $100 million thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is
Yeah.
the second of 5 planned funding rounds. How can that be when you have 3 years listed?
They could have more.
It's government
one round
math.
per year.
Have what?
They could have more than one round per year.
Yeah, maybe say the second funding round this year or something. I don't know. For 100 million for 5 years, they have 20 million a year, that's what we were told even, so that makes sense.
Cause it's just like RSF loans. When they do RSF loans, you get on the intended use plan, they'll start doling out the money. If you get a grant and then you decide not to move forward, it goes back in the pot and they just go down, and they keep doing round after round until they give away what they're planning on giving away for the year. And one thing we could look at too is if we decided to move forward on this, I would almost say in our next round of design, we have whatever engineer we decide to move forward with, bring on a financial consultant
Mhm.
that will help us figure out how to finance and fund this. And I bring that up because, like I said, one that I've got going on right now, it was a decision I decided to make and have our engineer hire him, and it's probably been one of the best things we've ever done.
What do they do for you?
This individual here, and I'm not gonna throw his name out tonight. He's looking at grants, he's looking at loans, he's showing us rate increases. He's showing us with different types of loans, different ways to, we've talked about RSF loans, there's WIFIA loans. But using commercial paper and using commercial paper before you use some of those loans will actually reduce some of your interest rate. There's all these different options that he is coming up with, things that we had a meeting this week that I've never heard of before. And even some of our financial people at work have just like, oh, we never thought about. And he's worked with places like Flint, Michigan, what they're going through. Major towns that are going through financial, trying to figure out how to pay for projects like this. It's just a thought, not that we would have to use him,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Services out there like that.
there is services that will help walk you through and show you how to do it.
Yeah,
And what's gonna be the most
in
cost
that
effective.
sort of vein of being creative, I mean, one of the things I thought I was looking about this is if we could make our project smaller somehow and still get to 5 million. Right, so basically like maybe just do like Old Town or something, and then it's only a $8 million project, and we still get to 5 million. And then, but this is gonna end, if this is the third year of this is gonna end, so you'd wanna do that like 3 years in a row or something to try to do Old Town. I don't know if they'd go for that.
And then
I don't know if they'd go for that.
we have a subdivision, instead of 16, we have room for,
Well, I mean, look at the
we have
small ones, yeah. I mean, they're doing-
500 person
they're getting
subdivision.
$1 million for 16 houses.
Um, Yeah.
Can we just do some?
Well, and it,
I like
and
the way
it's,
you're thinking, Joe.
it's not a bad thought. Can you break up a town and design it that way to where you're hitting different portions of town because of the era that they were built,
Right,
the
right.
potential failures? Can you go for additional loans?
Kind of the only
Or
problem is the line
grants.
from here to Benward's 5 million, just for that piece, so then.
Well, and that would be the other one too, is Benward at that point going to be willing to put that pump station
Yeah.
where they're talking, if we only connect X amount of houses,
Oh, yeah,
not
sure.
the entire town? They may look at it and say, that's not worth it. We're not
Plus,
putting
too,
it
is
there.
that since that's a service just for the central part of town, then they just get billed for that 5 million instead of spreading it over the entire village too.
Well, you could build just those people, but since you got 5 million to do the small
Oh.
project, their bill would hopefully be low, right, is what I'm saying. I mean, we try to make it a small project, so 5 million covers most of it, which is what all these other people did.
Or you take the 5 million for that and you spread it amongst the entire town.
Well, it's gonna go.
And then, well, the only reason I say this is because even if you're not using it now, eventually you will connect to it. The day will come where each
the
area
5 million
will,
spread
that
across
one,
the town. Oh,
and take
okay.
what the
For
infrastructure
the
cost
first thing, yeah.
for this section of town goes on those residents. I'm not saying we do that.
No,
I'm just saying,
And I'm
I'm
sure
throwing
that-
ideas out.
the build cost would be quite a bit if somebody had to do it over 3 years versus coming in here once and doing it all at once.
Yes,
I'm sure that would
yeah.
have a big impact on that too.
And yeah, Benward has probably given us numbers based on 800 houses, not 200.
Yeah, so when they look at putting that, because I know that, I think he said they talked about stopping that line over in the Newsbomb area and not extending it to where we would utilize it until we make a decision.
Yeah.
And we're
And I think he was
actually
talking about-
moving towards construction.
And he would say that they would have like a 5% variance in their plan
Yeah.
Based upon that, as I recall. So like I would say between 1 and 2, the referendum part of it, because there is a deadline on the referendum that we have to agree to for it to be even accepted by the circuit clerk
For this year.
for this year.
But,
If we decide to vote on it.
right,
There's a due date. So for the
but
spring election, it would be, we need to do
what, at
Oh,
this
do it by
point, what
January
are
2nd.
we,
it and January 11th are the due dates.
what decision are we having them vote on at this point?
That's the thing, is you have to,
Cause if we are taking more time to kind of find the funding for the design plan, we're not even at a place where we're like,
Correct.
we're gonna be spending money or moving forward. We're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
still
yeah.
in
figure out
the,
what the question will be.
right, so I don't
So maybe
feel like,
one can stop the whole project and assess where we're at, like maybe get explanations of where our money went to, things like that, before we go forward.
yeah. That's honestly where I'm at. I mean, I feel like we've gone this far. I'm not for stopping it completely right now. I feel like it is worth some more homework to see if we can make this work at a much lower cost, because it might be.
And another thing we could even look at doing is we've got the study. There has been some question on what is being presented to us, if it's even correct, if it's a correct path that we need to be looking at. We could always reach out to another firm and have them evaluate what's been done on the study to date.
I feel like that's.
Because we
okay.
have had some other engineers look at it and say, there is a lot cheaper way to do this. This
A
is
lot
not
as
the,
in millions and millions.
I don't know. Listening to some of them talk and some of the questions they had, sounds like it could
Yeah, I'm
It could
actually
save
not
a
opposed
substantial amount of money
to
and bring
looking at
costs down.
a different firm.
Well, this would be more just initially just getting an evaluation.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna help some of those questions on, do we move forward with BCA?
Mhm. And looking into, at the same time, a consultant. And crowdsourcing
Financial consultant?
yeah. And then crowdsourcing,
Getting the financial consultant part of finding more grants.
yeah, yeah,
And these are all of our options, right?
yes.
So we should put the referendum on there.
Thought it was on there.
I
Isn't that number
put it,
two?
I moved it up to two, yeah, let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you did, sorry.
I can get more space on here, so now that's worse.
If we
Pretty big now.
put it on a referendum, do we wanna have enough information to say, here's what the monthly cost is gonna be?
When we know, I just don't feel like there is anything to vote on right now.
Well,
There's
Emily,
really
what do you
not.
think there's,
We-
what is there to
well,
vote on? Just moving forward,
I'm just
period?
saying, we need to assess, what we learned so far, right? What are our sticking points so far based upon the plan that we presented in 4 meetings? We got feedback on that. So what are, and these are our options. But if we're gonna put on a referendum to do that, and I would say if we're gonna proceed,
I feel like the referendum is more for when we have actual, like an idea of what is going to cost, what it's gonna cost everybody.
Well, the referendum
And then
wouldn't
do
be
we
till
proceed?
but
March or something, I guess, right? We gotta have it ready by January. When's the-
second,
When's the
I think it's,
actual?
I think March, something like that, but January 2nd is the
We'd have
deadline.
to have that information by
Right.
January 2nd.
Yeah,
Well, we have to do, yeah, because we'll probably have to do it before then, because I would say probably in theory, right, December board meeting, so we have time to get it to the circuit clerks by that due date of January 2nd.
Depends on how specific, if you wanna go with a non-binding referendum question on an election, how specific do you want the question to be?
what I'm just saying is that right now is like, if we're just talking about options, we just have to make sure that we know that there's a deadline
Yeah.
on
okay.
that and do that because, like I said, everybody knows my thoughts on it. We presented it, we got the feedback, majority don't want it. The sewer, that's kind of the way I'm.
See, now I would argue that. I would
You can
argue that, I
argue,
would
of
argue that
course.
it's not the majority. I would argue that it's a very select few that have shown up and voiced their opinion. Because-
in the meeting, it's always the same people.
And.
It's the same people. I've had a lot of people in the
I'm telling you, board
community
members.
that are on board.
Yes.
Well, I would say that there's a high percentage. So let me ask every
There is a
board member
definite
here.
percentage.
So let me ask you, board members, each one, what is in percentage in favor of it?
Favor
Or
of
favor of against?
I couldn't tell you because there's what, 1,500 people that live in this town?
I'm just saying of the people that showed up at our public meetings and our public hearings.
And the people that we've talked to personally as
And-
well,
and
and our
everybody.
own opinion, because that matters.
Everybody,
I've talked to a lot of people that are kind of like indifferent. They're like,
Mhm.
they think a sewer is a good thing, and then if I say 165 a month, they're like, oh, and then they don't say much more. I mean, so if the price would come down, there'd be a lot more in favor of it, right?
Yeah,
So
so I
mean, it
still
just
feel
really
like,
Comes down to price.
yeah, listening to the opinions talk as well, the cost has come into a factor. So until we have a better idea of cost, I really can't say what the opinion is because it's opinion on current information, and current information is not a go, no go at this point. Like, we're not saying we're gonna go ahead with it at this current cost. We understand it's too much. So I think we still need to have homework to do. I can't say what the percentage is, because if I say, hey, everybody, we got it down to $50 a month, that might drastically change a number of opinions to tip the scale the other way.
But so from those comments, the only two things for us to do right now is to figure out if we can lower the cost or find more free money. That's the only two things to do. So we can get rid of all this, and that's the only two things.
But part of the problem you have is you're not gonna be able to lower the cost and figure that out until we do the design. So we gotta figure out, how do we pay for
Well,
that?
Yes.
I'm not gonna spend $1 million.
No,
to try
me
to figure
neither,
out.
but I think it's
Like, we gotta
worth
figure
That's
finding,
what I mean, if we can get,
I think it's
find a
worth
grant
finding
of free
out.
money, I
That's where
say
I'm
do the
at.
design. If we can get free money to do the design.
Yeah.
Where I was bringing it up the other night was, we can't find free money, how do we spend $1 million? If
We don't.
we go to a vote when you know it's going to fail.
Right.
Because you're gonna have more people that don't want to come out and vote that day than you are that do. It's just proven fact. I mean, why, look at all the other communities around here. How often do they put anything like this out on a referendum? Never. Why? Because you'll always get the people who don't want it come out and vote more than you will the people that do. I mean, when was the last time any town put something like this out for a vote?
so basically, we can't trust going to the meetings because not everybody comes to the meetings. We can't trust because everybody has a different opinion, don't tell us everything about it. So at what point do we know this is what the people want, is what I'm just saying. I mean,
You don't,
I mean-
but were you voted onto this council?
yeah,
So you were voted on to do what you feel is the best interest for the entire community,
yeah.
and you vote that way.
Yeah, so.
But personally, that's what they want, right? I mean, we're representatives, we're supposed to represent what they want.
That's what I mean.
We're not, if 90% of them don't want it, we're not supposed to do it, right? I mean, we're representatives, so that's
I
where
agree.
you can have a vote and see what people think. And if the people that want it don't come out, well, what?
That's where I get with, I can't see spending the money if we can't find free money to do the design.
Yeah.
That was my comment last meeting. If we can't find free money to do the design, I can't in good conscience say, let's move forward with the design if we are, as the five of us, gonna say, let's put it on a referendum. Because if we do that, we know it will fail. Hands down. There's not enough educated people in this town. I've heard of people calling up and asking, do I have septic or sewer? Because they don't have a clue. They really just don't understand anything about, because there's a lot of people that moved here from Bloomington Normal that are on sewer for years and don't understand it
Okay,
when you went to
I'm gonna
septic.
argue that point. There are a lot of well-informed people too.
There
They
are,
do that show too. So I mean, I'm just gonna throw that out there as well.
I don't
Sorry,
disagree.
Because
Would you
I,
say the majority are informed?
well, I would say, I think, you know,
What percent?
what I would say that a majority of the people that showed up, they took an interest. It meant enough to them that on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, whatever, at 7 o'clock, they showed up and they sat through that meeting. That was 2.5 hours long. So it meant enough for them to do that. So if they show up, it means something to them. I'm just trying to listen to, like I said, if it was a different thing, kind of to Lynn's point, it was like $50 a month or so, that would be something that I could entertain the idea. Oh, okay, there's a discussion, pros and cons, but this is just so far off. One guy was adamant about it, and I talked to many people. One guy was adamant. Oh, okay, so I thought, okay, he's gonna be one on board. Okay, a resident, not a business owner, he's gonna be on board. But then he found out, oh, $160? Well, no, I don't, is that worth it to him for that? So.
I
it's-
agree
it's-
with
it's
that
a-
same statement, though.
it's-
It is not worth it to me for $160. So if that's all the information I am presented with, then yeah, I'm gonna say, no, that's not.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of there
Go ahead.
was a lot of, not misinformation,
Misconceptions, how's that?
misconceptions about where we're at and what we were doing and how it all worked. So that weighed heavily on public opinion as well, and that I can look at that and say like, okay, well, we still have more work to do to figure this out. I feel like what I'm hearing is you're at a stop now,
Well,
no matter what.
I'm
Is that
at
true?
I'm at a stop, pause. Basically, this is you know me, I'm pretty blunt on this. So like, okay, we're overpaid on this guy, on this BCA. We reached out, mayors reached out, trying to get a response from. We haven't got a response on it. So basically, this is only like 20-30 grand. So I mean, based upon everything that I've been hearing throughout the term, if we can't get a response back on 30 grand about why we were billed, why we were overcharged, et cetera, don't have any confidence at all on BCA. And
It's an option, go with another firm.
Yeah.
but that's what
And I don't
blunt.
disagree with you on that.
I'm blunt about that. I'd like to hear Phil's thoughts about this. He's been silent on the whole project, but I just want to say, hey, I mean.
I don't disagree.
And with the financial part of it, the financial piece of it, I was thinking that BCA was gonna do more of that piece of it and say that, because then it was like, okay, the whole questions about the engineers, the questions and answers about that, I wanted to be, okay, hey, there's some issues that came up with that. And again, I just had more concerns because of those type of things.
And I agree with you, and that's why my comment then after last meeting was, I'm not opposed to moving on to a different engineering firm.
Yeah.
Because of those factors.
And that was built into the
It
original
was.
contract.
Yeah.
We go so
At every
far,
phase, yeah.
phase one, then we decide what we're gonna do next with the option of moving to a different
Yeah.
company.
It's pretty simple math that he's got in there, though. For the linear feet of pipe you have to install and how much it costs. I mean, you have to run a pipe by everybody's house, and you have to hook up everybody's house. And if those linear feet costs are correct, this thing's gonna be 23 million no matter what engineering firm we do it. Now, that would be why we'd have another engineering firm look. Maybe he's got, something wrong in there, and when you're multiplying by 10,000, it's a big deal.
Well,
But
I
our
could-
comfort, it's also our comfort with, if we want to pursue it and we find the funds for the design plan, our comfort going with the current engineer firm to complete it. Not, so cost could be cost no matter what, yeah, but do we want them to do the work if that's?
Yeah, I'm stuck on the cost. I mean, I don't see any way to move forward with this
At the
cost,
current cost. No, I
without a
don't
bunch of money. And I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think anybody else is finding money. I mean, these people, I don't know if these people that got these awards got any other money either. Did you have any chance to talk to anybody or?
No, I haven't talked to any of them.
I mean, it'd be interesting to know if these guys that got the IPA awards, did they find any free money lying around either, you know? I mean,
But I will say, a couple of the engineers, I mean, you've heard from them that did look this over, thought that BCA's cost per linear foot were extremely inflated.
I thought they were too low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Russ Waldo thought they were low.
Russ
There
thought
was
they were
one that
low.
thought
See, I
that.
thought Russ came back and told me that he thought they were too high.
He's, both
And I'll
parties
check
said
with
they're
him.
too low.
Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah, he reduced his,
Yeah,
yeah, his first one, I can't remember, it was, he thought they were like 5 million too low. And he came back and said he thought they were only
Okay.
2 million too low.
Sorry,
Yeah, so it was like a 10% difference, it wasn't
because
Yeah, but
large compared to
again,
what we're gonna do when
Russell's,
we hit the water.
Russell's calculations had no economies of scale. It was weighted,
Mhm.
everything was
Gotcha.
weighted and inflation adjusted, but there was no economies of scale in any of his calculations.
Mhm.
So,
I think so Russ was right to a certain extent, but not, it was not the amount that he was referring to. He was right only for this amount, not for,
well, that was his second bid, was the
Yeah.
one that
yeah,
was inflation adjusted
yeah.
and weighted based on how many feet were put in. But none of those jobs were big jobs,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, because I know that Russ actually conceded that point.
Mhm.
yeah.
So he
Yeah,
conceded
he
that
said
point.
that,
He
yeah.
went and talked to Greg, he conceded that those points and said, okay, based upon this, but then it's not gonna be this much, but he still had a,
He still came back and said he thought it was 2 million
yeah,
under, which
it's, yeah,
gotcha.
may or may not be.
like I
So
said, I mean,
that's neither here nor there for what we want to do next.
Right.
So,
One thing, Dave and I had discussed briefly was, okay, so the design costs that we'd have to come up with. And we're estimating them right now, Aaron's estimating maybe 10% of our construction costs or even 5%. I mean, that's $1 million to $2 million possibly. Okay, those monies are reimbursable only if
Mhm.
we move forward with the design plan and we got our $5 million. We applied for the grant and got it. So if we take the design cost out of that grant money, was that money figured in the $150 or $160 already out of our construction?
The whole
bills?
5 million
Yes.
figured in there already.
Yeah.
The whole 5 million subtracted from the
Yeah.
Oh, what was
20,
the design plan?
exactly with
Yeah.
what the payments are right now.
Yeah.
So we're adding more cost by moving
Yeah.
forward with the design. Right?
I have to
think
relook.
you're
I don't
right.
think design costs were part of the.
I don't,
think so
that's what,
either.
that's why I'm asking
I
that.
have to
Does
go back
anybody
through.
know different as far as
Right.
where the design costs come out? I think that's added cost on to what we've
Design cost
already
wasn't
been.
in the 23 million?
I
I
don't,
don't think so.
I don't
thought
believe
it
so.
was, I thought it was like 1 point.
It
Be
might
wrong,
be.
but I was thinking that,
now,
plan
it
that we
could,
got-
it could be, Kevin.
well,
I,
it could not be, but it's been a while since I saw that, but I think it's been a few months, but I think it was,
You saw somewhere?
I thought it was like a phase of it. I was thinking it was 1.3 to 1.7 was the design. But I'm not sure, but again,
already
I'm not
figured
sure,
in,
don't take my word on it because I don't know if that was
that's
the
something,
design
I
or
think
that
that's
was a
something that Greg should have been
design
able to
phase
explain
3.
to us.
I don't
That,
know.
okay, already in these costs, the design costs, this much for design costs have been figured into these monthly, costs.
Yeah, that's,
I don't,
that's fair, so. There's a lot we don't know.
I'm not gonna look through 80 pages of documents right now. We'll figure
Right.
that out. We'll have an answer for next meeting.
well, I mean, if we don't have, if there's no cost figured in there for design, that's,
There should have been.
there should have been cost figured in there.
Okay, so we got, I think that's pretty much, that's the only things I've thought of as far as options on how to proceed forward. So, the more information things I've got is, I'll talk to IPA, see if they have any thoughts on breaking this down into 3 phases? So we could maybe get partial grants or grants for doing part of the town at a time.
I think the 100 million would have to be renewed or something, right? Because there's only 2 more years left in that, I think. You
Yeah,
try to do phases, it would.
yeah, we might run out of years.
Yeah.
Cause it's
But
gonna be,
Maybe in a
Who
couple
knows?
of years, they'll do another 100 million, right? Maybe it's something
Yeah.
they'll keep renewing and you could do it 3 phases, I don't know.
my next note is IEPA question, how many? And that's all I wrote down. What else do we wanna know from IEPA? How many more applications they got at this time for the next grant period?
When is the next grant period open?
I'd
Well,
have to
does
look
that-
it back up. It's
Okay, we
coming up
can't,
here within a couple months.
we can't apply for the grant until we have the design plan done.
Correct,
Unless he's got a fair.
Design plan takes 12 to 18 months, correct?
I
You'd
think
have
so.
plenty of
Yeah.
breakdowns with that cost.
So we're gonna be in the last round.
Yeah, that would put us
The
in the
final.
last round.
So Joe,
Yes.
splitting it up is not even an option unless they open up more money, because design, we can't apply for it until design plan is done. Design plan takes at least 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, so I said they have to do another 100 million
Yeah.
5-year project or something, but there's really guarantee of that, so that probably doesn't work either.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can see this working, try to make the project smaller, so get 5 million for it, except that the one line costs 5 million, so. it works great. You just make the line that nobody would be using.
What are you talking, like just maybe putting in the infrastructure?
Well, I'm just saying somehow if we just do Old Town or something, right, we tell the
But
EPA, oh,
you
no.
just have to have the you couldn't hook up any sewers or to it.
Well, you'd have to have the 5 million line of inward and then probably another 5 million in town.
Well,
So,
that's what
yeah,
I'm wondering, if you just do infrastructure.
And not hook it up to nothing?
Right.
Ooh, that'd be a, good job, good luck selling that one, I'm gonna guess. I mean, if you don't have it hooked up. I would think they want you to retire some septic tanks, right? That's what those other ones are noting, how many septic tanks they got rid of. Right, this is why it's worth giving them money, because now these septic tanks are closed. I think they want them working.
Engineering building services, 1,265,000.
Okay, so the design is in there.
What is
10%.
it?
They would expect
Guidance,
results.
guidance inspection, so this is
I
the.
believe the government has really something that doesn't work.
Assume 10% of construction cost.
What
Assume
page you on?
10%. The construction cost is 23 or 24 million.
We're taking it off this 12.
What page you on?
This is on table 7.
Oh, 7.
And that
That
was,
looks different.
so it is included. So,
What table are you
Right. Table 7.
on?
Up higher?
No. that's
More
not-
one page?
What page you got a page?
Oh,
That
there-
one.
there's a design, I saw something,
So,
design and
go-
engineering.
if you go down right there,
D.
so you got design and engineering, which is a 10%, so it's 1.2, and then you have construction guidance, which is construction and observation, where we
Oh.
will pay them to be on site during all the construction, is another 1.2.
Mm,
but they're
So-
both included.
They're both included. And I'm sure he's doing it, like I said, he's just doing it as a 10%, which is usually a rule of thumb.
Okay, so what is the heading on table 7?
Present worth analysis,
Says it worth analysis, yeah.
On
that's a gravity sewer,
low pressure.
yeah.
So yeah, it's in there then, right? percent.
So the estimated project cost is 15.8. I thought it was 25.
Well, this doesn't have the 5 million line to Bloomington. This is just for in town. So then you add another 5 million onto this.
Oh,
and then-
gotcha. Okay.
The next one, do that, it's this one. It all ends up adding up into like 23 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, here's the page where it's got
Mhm.
23 total. This piece is 5 million and this piece is the 18, I guess. Yeah, which adds up to 23.
Hey, Joe, can you put the option
Yes.
screen back up? Thank you. Anybody think of anything else we want to add to this at this point in time?
You have the subdividing project listed.
Yeah, I was just thinking if Dave's gonna actually look into that.
I'm gonna look into it. Yeah, it's not listed up there.
Projects.
And obviously be dependent on the state renewing their commitments for another 100 million for 5 years and
Which there's no way we'll know that.
multiple things.
Yeah,
That's an act of the legislature.
Yeah.
Okay. Cause I wanna, when we talk about this at our regular meeting in November, you know, we want this to be displayed so everybody can see what our options are.
Can I make a point about the area that you would want to do first? You probably want whoever has the highest water table. And the easiest way you're gonna get that information is go around and look at some pumps.
Why do you wanna find the highest water table? You like,
Because they're gonna be the ones that are gonna have the septic problems first.
oh. Should get rid of something here. What was this? What's RDE, rural development?
Rural development.
Yeah.
agencies.
Already, it's part of USDA.
Rain got the other day?
Hmm.
Some side never ran.
Oh.
No, Jason across the street?
Mhm.
His ones.
Mhm.
Mine doesn't.
Okay, so
It's just an email or send you a PDF or?
either way, as long as we have it. And then Sarah, I want you to get a copy of it so you can display it next time.
Dave, what was the email with the one voice trip information? I was trying to.
Oh, the 300 million Benward thing. Go back and see if I can find it. Came in within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, the Quiller's doing better. They only had about 3 mistakes this time, so.
you get that for the minutes, Johnson?
Yeah, okay.
Our meeting tonight, and then Mark pointed out that the Quill had it, we were meeting at the firehouse.
Yes.
Lynn, I can't find it right now.
Okay, I'll keep looking at it.
What are you looking for then?
The information about the one voice
Oh.
trip. Back in like
That's the one you had pulled up, Joe?
No, that was the IEPA awards.
Oh.
I pulled up, yeah.
So I will talk to IEPA, ask them about the phases and see what their opinion is, if they have any feeling whether or not the state might renew this when the program runs. We know that the design cost is including. I'll also talk to Benward and see if they have any feelings about us combining what we want with what their request is gonna be. See if they would back that or not. So they kind of go together because some of their money would be for expanding out this way. So our request, and there's, I'm not dreaming, I hope anyway, I think they could go together.
Ask for another 15 million.
Yeah, put another 18 million on there,
Yeah.
so,
That'd be nice.
okay.
And then how, if we wanna look into like a consultant to
Um,
help us.
I don't have any handles. The only person I know is a consultant that hooks us up with contacts in DC.
Yeah.
That was Cardinal, I believe was their name. The financial consultant, I have no idea what they are.
I could reach out to the one that
Yeah,
I've been using.
Would you find out,
Yeah.
yeah, see if they would have capacity to come just talk to us first about what their services are and what their charges are?
He would probably do it remotely just because he's out of North Carolina. He was out of Chicago and just relocated to North Carolina, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but just like to meet them and see what they all do and
Yeah.
go from there, so. I'm not gonna talk to the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council yet, and we need to talk to Benwood first and go with them and see what he says, so. Okay, anybody have any other comments on our options, directions? Okay, need everybody to think about it, and we'll talk about it then at our next meeting. I don't know whether we'll finalize a direction in November or not, but we can at least talk about it again and get more input and see if we have more things we want to add to the list. So, Joe, you got the master list on this, so just make sure you hang on to it.
The thing I just typed up, you mean?
Yeah.
I just sent it to everybody.
Okay,
thank
So,
you.
all right. Is go back to the agenda. All right, does anybody have anything else? And just as an FYI, I have a potential trustee. So I'm gonna be polling all of you to see if you like what you're doing now or if you're interested in changing. And there are no commitments on my part to putting this new person in any particular area. So send more about that in email, so we expecting an email from me, so. All right, does anybody have any additional things, discussion items? If not, I think it's a good meeting tonight. Appreciate everybody participating and giving us ideas on where to go next. Nobody has anything else, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Okay, it's not a money item, so we can do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our meeting is adjourned.
And silence your phone, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out.